to ThinkTech. We are raising public awareness about energy, technology, globalism, and diversification. This show is Center Stage. I am Donna Blanchard, your host and proud managing director of Kumukuhua Theater. We are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kumukuhua Theater. You can watch this show on ustream.tv or Spreaker.com. We stream live every day from noon to 5, every weekday from noon to 5. And you can also find all of our archived shows on YouTube or by going to thinktechhawaii.com. If you would like to come and join us in the studio downtown for any of our shows, just email j@thinktechhawaii.com. Okay, I'm very excited about my guest today. He's coming to us from Chicago. He is at the Second City. His name is Joe Janes. He's an Emmy Award-winning writer and teaches comedy writing at the Second City and Columbia College. He's written for Jellyvision's You Don't Know Jack and Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update. He has published 3 books of his staged work, 365 sketches, 50 plays, and 7 deadly plays. His full-length plays include Metaluna and the Science of the Mind Revue, A Hard Day's Journey into Night, and Always Never. He writes regularly for WNEP Theatre and Robot vs. Dinosaur. He teaches a weekend workshop on improvisational writing called 3 Plays, 3 Days, an Intense Writing Intensive. And the next one is in August, which is like tomorrow, at Gorilla Tango Theater in Chicago. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, it's so good to see your face.
Yeah, good to see you.
Moving, not just on Facebook.
Right.
So, Joe, let's start off, if you don't mind, tell us about what you are doing right now. Yeah, flesh out a little bit the bio that I just went through.
Sure. Well, right now it's summer, so things are a little slow theater-wise, and I'm focusing on teaching. I just finished up teaching what's called an immersion at Second City. In fact, I'm in one of our training center rooms here. And what these are is people literally come from all around the world to come learn about comedy writing and improv at Second City. The class I had today, there's 3 guys from Warsaw, Poland. There's 1 woman from Vancouver. There's a guy from Italy who now lives in Germany. And it's really not unusual. Like, they literally come from all over. And then they just immerse themselves in improv and comedy writing for the week. And then they go back to their homes and hopefully continue preaching the gospel about improv and comedy.
Before I go further, I have to ask you, did you have Jordan Savusa in your class probably about 9 months ago? Big.
Sounds familiar. I'm not sure.
Big guy from Hawaii.
Oh, I think I did.
He was just on my show 2 weeks ago. He's in the show at Kumukuhua Theater.
Oh, okay.
Small
I think
world.
I did, because I remember somebody from Hawaii being in one of my classes recently.
Yeah, I bet that was Jordan. Anyway. So how many people are in this intensive?
Well, this time there's 10. They run the gamut of usually no less than 6. 6 is really rare, and the maximum is 16.
Oh, okay. And how many hours a day are you spending with them? How many hours a day are they immersed?
I just have them in the afternoon for writing, so it's a 3-hour class in the afternoon. And in the morning, they have improv that starts at 10 a.m. And, I give them writing assignments, so they're trying to see everything they can in Chicago. They're being tourists, but they're also seeing a ton of shows, and they're writing on the fly in Starbucks whenever they can, on breaks, and then they have the improv class, and then they have to turn their sketches in at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and class starts at 2 o'clock.
Oh, wow. So the people that you're working with, do they have any writing experience coming in? Do they need to?
Well, we have a level writing 1, where if you don't have writing experience, we teach you how to build your writing muscles, particularly how to write for the stage, because especially with sketch comedy, most people are familiar with video, SNL, Mad TV, etc. And so they have to rework their thinking on it. They so want to write cut to this or do like a bunch of different locations. And so our first thing we have to do in that writing one is like kind of strip that away and teach them how to rethink it. Because the Second City show, really, there's no sets, there's very minimal props. Basically, it's 4 chairs that if you move them around, it's either a living room or a speedboat, and you know, that's it. So they have to really rewire their brains for writing sketch comedy for the stage. So no, you don't need writing experience for that. But even if you do have writing experience, you still have to kind of rethink things.
Yeah. And how quickly are you throwing them, if you only have a week with them, how quickly are you actually getting them in their computers or writing, you know?
Oh, right away,
Yeah.
right away. In writing one, we start writing immediately. And then this week, writing 2 is even heavier. Like writing 1, their main goal for the week is to write a fully fleshed out sketch, 3 to 5 pages, 6 characters. And in writing 2, they have to do that once a day for 4 days in a row. So it is a big ramp up. But these guys have been champions. They're doing a great job. And, you know, it's an immersion, so we cut them some slack. In a regular program, you have a whole week to work on a sketch. Here, if your sketch comes in, it's handwritten and there's coffee stains on it, it's okay.
Gotcha. So, okay, other than that, you're also at Columbia. Do you teach in the summer session?
I do. We just wrapped up 2 weeks ago, improv classes. And I also teach comedy writing there. But it's a little bit different over there because it's a theater program. So when we teach improv there, it's distinct from Second City. It's a little bit more as a tool for a theatrical process.
Oh.
You know, how to flesh out a character or flesh out a situation or flesh out a relationship with another actor or character in a play.
Oh, okay. And how long have you been with Columbia?
You know, I'm horrible at remembering dates and stuff, but I think that's 9 years. Yeah, I think I'm going on my 9th year there.
And you've been with Second City
Since '97.
quite a while.
Yeah. I started in the touring company and then went to Second City Detroit as a producer, director, and a teacher there. And then, when I started in the touring company, I also started teaching here. Then I moved back to Chicago after Detroit, and I've just been focusing on teaching.
Oh, okay. And do you do any stage work yourself still?
I do, not as much as I would like. In fact, I'm reworking my teaching schedule to free up my evenings so I can get involved in some plays over the next year. Nothing lined up yet, but I'm definitely missing that. When it comes to getting stage time these days, a huge thing in Chicago right now is storytelling. Is that big in Hawaii now?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like started as like a little blip on the radar, maybe 5-6 years ago, and now it's just blossomed. And so I'll do a lot of the storytelling events around the city, and just did one recently at a show called The Bucket Show, which was kind of a melding of storytelling and improv and music at this restaurant that sort of has a coffee house vibe, where usually with a story, I write it and rehearse it. And this one, they're like, don't prepare anything. There's going to be a musician who goes up before you. He's going to play a song. You get up and tell a story that's inspired by that song. And that was great. I was scared.
Wow, that's terrifying. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had that, like, oh my gosh, this is okay.
How'd you do?
But it went really well. They created a real safe space, and the musician was wonderful and kind of tapped into he's a young guy, and he was singing a song about being a young guy in his mid-20s, so it just reminded me of just how horrible it was when I turned 25. You know, that quarter-life crisis where, like, I am not anywhere near where I should be or want to be. And so that was my story about bar backing at a lounge at a Ramada Inn in Cincinnati, Ohio at 25.
I was working in a restaurant in Wilmette.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Lovely.
It was a nice restaurant. You know what? I just had some, my last guests on the show are writers, and they lead a fiction writing workshop that's called Bucka Loose Your Writing. And it's kind of the, they have put together a device to help people break through barriers on writing. It's great for new writers, but also for experienced writers who just have a block. And part of the tenets of this is you're given a safe place, and you're given a prompt or a cue, and then you have to write something in 3 minutes, and you know you're going to be reading it afterwards in front of people. That. And it's amazing what people come up with in 3 minutes under that construct.
Yeah, I mean, have you done it, or?
I did.
Oh, great.
I
That's
did,
pretty awesome.
And we went through 3 of them. I think the first 2 were just 3 minutes, and the last one that they did was 5 minutes, and that was some of the best stuff I've ever written.
Yeah, right. I did a 24-hour project a few years ago, probably around 2007, and I always like really kind of dissed 24-hour projects. I'm like, I don't understand. Why would I do this when I clearly could take my time and make something better? And then Columbia does them. They were doing them every semester, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you do one as a writer?" And I'm like, and I went in. And what's great is that it's exactly what you said. Like, you really don't have time to second guess yourself, because you got a time limit. You got to get something together. And with a 24-hour project, I think, there were actors that were pre-assigned that I had to write for, that I wanted to make them look good. I had a director that I wanted to make sure he was challenged, and also I wasn't embarrassed because I liked him. Yeah. So like puts a little fire under you, and I was really happy with what I wrote, and that really led to me being like, hey, this writer's block is kind of a bunch of baloney. There's really no such thing. There's either writing or not writing.
Oh, absolutely right. Right. We gotta take a real quick break, Joe. We're at the first one already. That's how fast it's going. We will be right back on Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. Stick with us.
Aloha, this is Keli'i Akina. It's my privilege to be the host of Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Ehana Kako, what does that mean? Well, many people have heard of E Pule Kako, let's pray together. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Let's work together to build a better economy, government, and society. And every week, Monday, from 2 to 3 o'clock, you will see movers and shakers and other people who are working together to build a better economy, government, and society. Again, I'm Keli'i Akina on the Ehana Kako weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Aloha. See you here Mondays, 2 to 3.
Hi, we're back and we're live. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, proud Managing Director of Kumukuhui Theater. And I'm talking with Joe James in Chicago, who is at the Second City at the moment, and their internet seems to be working pretty well there. We're happy about that.
Very.
Let's go. Okay, so let's go right back into that conversation. I think the cool thing about, improv, there's some really tough things about improv. One of the cool things is that when you have a performance aspect, and you're one of those personalities for whom that works. It's not going to work for everyone. So you have the performance aspect, and you have a limited amount of time. Stuff comes out of you that makes me think about all that stuff is in there all the time. It's kind of mind-blowing. Yeah,
I totally agree. And that's one thing I discovered as an improviser, and love being around students when they discover it, is that, you just open your mouth and speak. And most of the time what comes out is pretty cool and actually very helpful. And, once in a while, no. But sometimes, like, you come up with stuff like, I had no idea something that brilliant might come out of my mouth. And, and also what makes it brilliant is what the other performers do with it when you're improvising. So it's also making sure you're with some people that are really quality people, too.
I think there's something really meditative about that experience, being so immersed in the moment that you are actively listening at not only what the other people are saying, but what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's so weird that we have to teach classes in that. Because, at the heart of it, improv is just you get up and you make stuff up. But, of course, Second City has been around for 50 years, so they've discovered a few things, that there's things that work that work better than others, not necessarily rules, but if you kind of like yes and your partner, agree with them, make them look good, get blown away, have emotional reactions to whatever they do or say, likely your scene's going to go somewhere. And that's also what I apply to my writing. Like when we talk about writing with deadlines, like I'm basically improvising on paper when I write.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting, but you have all the time in the world. Not all the time in the world, but you know, you're not under the same constraints as a person is on stage.
That is true. That is true. Absolutely. But the advantage of improvising on paper too is like sometimes when you're improvising on stage, things don't always go well, and what you're envisioning in your head isn't what your partner's envisioning in your head, and you're clearly being an astronaut, and they're walking in as a cowboy. And
Yeah.
when, you know, in improv, you can roll with that, and it can be great. And when you're writing on paper, you don't have to worry about things like that happening.
Yeah.
You can keep yes-anding yourself and building from there.
And just keep creating the world. That's got to be a little therapeutic sometimes, Joe.
Oh man, it totally is. It totally is. I used to be not a fan of free writing, you know, where you just sit and just write and nonstop, and whatever comes off your fingertips is there. But what I've discovered is like if I do that free writing before I write or even do improvising, I uncover like stuff I didn't even realize was going on in my mind. You know, emotional stuff, subconscious stuff, things that are making me angry in the news or at home. And then that stuff's now at my fingertips when I write or when I'm improvising.
Oh, yeah. Ah, cool. All kinds of applications going on there. So let's talk about your class coming up at. Can you talk a little bit about Gorilla Tango? I think that theater is really cool.
Yeah, Gorilla Tango is this. I believe they started in Albuquerque, and then they moved here. It's got to be 10 years probably, and it's basically a space that you can rent. I mean, I'm sure there are shows they say no to, but anybody who's like, hey, I got an idea for a show, you can go to Gorilla Tango, and they're like, hey, great, we got this slot open on Thursdays or on Fridays, and why don't you do a show? And you don't have to put down a security deposit or anything like that. It's all based on ticket sales, and they'll help you promote it, and they'll help provide rehearsal space for you, and then you do a show. I see a lot of students that go through Second City, and they want to keep doing stuff, so they end up going over to Gorilla Tango and throwing shows together and really cutting their teeth and learning how to do this more polished.
Oh, wow. And groups are moving in and out throughout the evening.
Yeah,
right?
They'll do 3 to 5 shows a night, especially on a Friday or Saturday.
Wow.
Their big thing right now is burlesque. That's still pretty huge in Chicago, and they do burlesque parodies of like Star Wars and Indiana Jones and things like that.
Oh, fun. So burlesque is really big here in Honolulu too. Yeah, it's funny how that trend is, I don't know, going all over the place.
Well, what's cool about it here is it's all like not beholden to any idealized body image. They have quite a range when it comes to their shows, which is really the fun part about it too.
Nice. And exactly the way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you're teaching a class at Gorilla Tango. I didn't realize even that they had classes as well.
Yeah, it's 3 plays, 3 days, and it's exactly what we've been talking about, improvisational writing, where I'll keep the class small. It's going to be about maybe 5, 7 max, and we're going to write 3 10-minute plays, 1 a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then on Sunday night, I'll bring in actors, and we'll do a staged reading of the best of the work from the weekend.
Oh, okay. 3. Oh, that's intense. How many people do you have involved, or how many people optimally do you have involved?
Optimally, I think it's 5, 6. We've gone up as many as 8, and then it gets a little crazy on Sunday when we're juggling actors and trying to prep for a 7:30 showtime for a staged reading.
Have you done this before there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only done it there. I've done it a couple times there, and whenever I have a free weekend and they have the space available, we're like, hey, let's do it. Okay, let's put it together. And It's a lot of fun, and it's the students that come in have a wide variety of backgrounds, but a lot of them like just have not written under the gun like what we were talking about, and this is like a really good format for them to like work that muscle and surprise themselves. Just like improvising and finding out what comes out of your mouth is brilliant. Same like they discover they can be brilliant on paper as well.
Oh, cool. So I want to talk about, that's awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to say about that class?
There's still spots available. Anybody want to come in from Hawaii? Come on in.
You never know. Jordan went out there for you.
Jordan. Come on, Jordan.
Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the show because I do want to make sure that we give people the information they need to learn more about it. But I'd really like to, Joe, go back. Can we talk about Joe when he was a young man? Were you involved in theater in high school? Were you a theater goer when you were young?
Oddly enough, I didn't get involved in theater. It sounds like I'm a late bloomer, but no, this is really early. It was like I got into a cast in a play when I was 14. And my brother and I both auditioned, and he was 16 at the time. And there was no theater department at high school. The local community theater had a teen program. Oddly enough, for a teen program, they were doing Noel Coward's Blithe Spirit.
Oh, well, that could have really sucked. How did they do?
I'm sure it sucked.
But at the time.
But at the time, I was thrilled. My brother had the lead male role. I had the doctor friend part, and we wore suits, but we had long hair, and we did not want to cut it because we were teenagers. So we just put like gray streaks in our long hair to make us look older.
Oh, nice.
And I love Noel Coward, but at this time I had no clue what was going on. I had lines that were supposed to be funny, and I had no idea why they were funny. Oh. And it was also my experience of one time during a show just changing a line and making it what I thought was funny, and I cracked up, and everybody else on stage cracked up. And boy, did our director get angry.
Oh, just because you were rewriting Noel Coward and feeling focused.
We were punching up Noel Coward.
Just modernizing him a little bit. Was that so that was the first time you auditioned for a show?
First time I auditioned for a show and first time in a play. And
why did you do it? Why did you audition?
Hey, that's a good question. I don't really remember. I think we had some friends who were involved, and it was just like, hey, you guys should do this so we can hang out and have fun. And we did. And we had fun. It was great. We did. I ended up doing more shows there, and I think over the years that we were there, they got better, and they were more, if not age appropriate, more content appropriate for us. We understood them.
That's always a bonus.
Yeah.
When you're even mentally and emotionally capable of understanding the work that you're doing. And Noel Coward may be a little beyond.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there?
Well, from there, you know, again, it's really odd. My high school did not have a strong theater program. We had great teachers. So it was always like outside people that were like really supporting us and helping us out. And there was this, one of my friend's mothers organized a trip to Michigan to go see the Second City. The touring company was in Monroe, Michigan, and she arranged it for us to all hop in a van, go up there on, I think it was a Wednesday, and spend all day doing workshops and then see a show that night. So I got to meet Del Close, and he was leading the workshop, a bunch of other actors. Mike Haggerty is the only one I remember, and he's a character actor that if you looked him up on IMDb, you go, oh, that's Mike Haggerty. He was one of the guys that taught me in a couple of exercises, and I just was blown away. I just fell in love with improv, saw the show that night. I'm like, oh, my God, I want to do this, and even arranged to come back a few days later to catch their Sunday matinee and watch it again. Oh, wow. And talk to the actors afterwards some more. And I kind of stalked them a little bit. They played Cleveland a month later, and I was in front row for that. And they were like, all right, man, just come to Chicago when you're done with college. Go to college, but then come to Chicago.
Oh, how cool is that? And you were how old?
17.
And
yeah, 17.
Yeah, you knew. The first time I saw a full-out play, it was Showboat, and I think I was 8. I knew it. I wanted to get on that stage so badly, and I was watching the show, and in my mind I was imagining I'd walk down the aisle here, and I see there's stairs over there. I could get on the. I just knew I had to be on that stage.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how it's like hits you in the head. And it's like, oh my God, I got to be doing this. And seeing a sketch review, they're doing so many different characters. They're getting laughs. They're playing. And like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and how cool that. Well, you had the cojones to go talk with them, and that they were really open to that.
Yeah. Oh, they were friendliest people ever, and I think that still holds true. Like, that's just a vibe around here. When I was in touring company, we'd love talking to people after the show, and whenever we got a chance to do workshops, we'd love to meet new people, and you know, it's a fun art form to share for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it takes a lot of energy. And I would imagine you're building energy while you're talking with all those people who are part of the loop with you. Yeah?
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy, but what's interesting is that it comes naturally, it flows. Like, a lot of times you don't realize how much energy you expelled until you're done. And you realize, oh, I'm exhausted now. I didn't realize that was going to happen. But when you're on stage or in a workshop and you're engaged with people, it's like, it's not even a consideration.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, Joe, I'm sorry. We need to take another quick break, and we're going to jump right back into your history in a moment. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. I'm Donna Blanchard, talking with Joe Janes, and we'll be right back.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, we're back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. I'm your host, Donna Blanchard, proud Managing Director of Kumukuhoi Theater. And we are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very close to Kumukuhoi Theater. I'm talking with Joe Janes from Second City in Chicago. And Joe, so let's go back. You talked with saw some folks from Second City, fell in love with what was going on that stage, talked with them, and they said, go to school and then come to Chicago and be with us. Is that when you went to Wright State?
Yeah, I went to Wright State, and that's when I started a improv comedy group there, which, you know, looking back on it, didn't strike me as an odd thing, but nobody else was doing it at the time. Now, like any college you go to, there's an improv club or, you know, several going on. But at that time, like, nobody was doing it. And I was totally stealing everything I learned in that workshop in Michigan to put it together and share what I knew about improv with people. And so, as well as taking classes there and learning about acting in different theater styles, I was also doing comedy.
Doing stand-up?
Well, doing improv comedy and sketch comedy with the gang at Wright State. And then also that is when I started doing stand-up in the summers between on break. I would do stand-up, and then there's a Wiley's in Dayton, Ohio that opened up, and they were one of the first stand-up comedy clubs in the country.
Oh, really?
You know? Yeah, you know, they were like, especially outside of New York or LA, the one of the first ones to start up. And they started up like a few years before comedy hit like really super big in the 80s. So I was working there too. I remember emceeing for a week and making a whole $5.
And that was just a vision of what was to come in the theater.
Yes, essentially, yes.
Get used to it. And I should say, for anyone watching who doesn't know this, we went to school together at Wright State. Different classes, but We had, I felt like I got a pretty amazing education there. It was very intense.
Mm-hmm.
It was very intense. And when you're talking about Wiley's, I'm thinking, I never went to Wiley's. I think I was so wrapped up in my own trajectory at that time that I didn't even know that was going on. Sorry I missed you.
You know, I may not have mentioned that I was also not a good student. I really jammed on stuff that I enjoyed, and if I had a class that I was not interested in, that class tended to suffer. I've become a better student as I've gotten older, by the way, but at that time, I was just totally drawn to what I was drawn to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there are times I look back and I think, why? Oh, yeah, I learned about that. That was really cool. I wish I would have paid a little more attention to that. There's a lot of growing up that has to happen in college. So did you go directly to Chicago then after school?
I didn't. I went down to Cincinnati and there started to get engaged with stand-up. After that horrible experience of bar backing at a sleazy nightclub in a hotel, started doing stand. There were several open mic nights at different clubs in Cincinnati, and Funny Bone opened up, and so it was possible to start doing stand-up several times a week. And from there, started to meet other stand-up comedians who were traveling the road, and that just parlayed to where I was able to book myself solid for about a month to 2 months out, and then I'm like, okay, I can quit that job at the bar and go out on the road full time. And so from Cincinnati, I went full time doing stand-up. I did that for 5 years, and then moved to Chicago.
That must have been kind of a terrifying move to make. Was it?
You know what? It was, and I really put it off because Cincinnati, I felt really safe, and in Chicago, I just thought, oh my God, big bad Chicago. Maybe I'll have to live out in a suburb or something where I feel safer. And then a friend of mine moved to Edgewater, which is in the northern part of Chicago, and I went to visit him for a week, and I just hung out, and I'm like, oh, this isn't bad. This is very friendly. I found myself going to places and running into people I knew just in happenstance, and I'm like, it was a big, small town. And I was kicking myself for not moving earlier.
Yeah, I was in Edgewater for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
It's very provincial and not in the pejorative sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It is a big small town.
Yeah, yeah, and you know there are pockets here and there where you don't want to be at night, and you just gotta, you gotta be smart and be safe. But it's not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and you had to go there if you want to do what you wanted to do successfully and continue learning along the way. You had to go into one of those markets: Chicago, New York, LA.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I was kind of weighing them all, and Chicago just seemed to make more sense because all my stand-up gigs were mostly in the Midwest. So to be out of Chicago was a lot easier than being out of New York or LA. And of course, Second City. I wanted to get Second City back into my life and revisit that.
Yeah. So then you got into Second City at that point. Wait, 97.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started taking classes in the early 90s and weaned myself off the road so I could stay in town and take classes and work in theater. And then after graduating in conservatory, they have general auditions at Second City. And I would audition every year and get called back and not get cast. And that happened about 4 years in a row. And then 1 year, and in the meantime, I started a theater company, WNEP, which you mentioned, and was doing tons of stuff with them and having a blast. And I also got hired by Jellyvision to work on You Don't Know Jack, so everything was fine. And 1 year, I decided not to audition for Second City because I loved WNEP, I loved Jellyvision, everything's cool. And that was the year they actually called me and said, "You're auditioning this year, aren't you?" And I'm like, yeah, great, just come to callbacks on Friday. And I'm like, okay. Wow. And that was a blast. It was like a really cool callback. It was Jack McBrayer from 30 Rock was in that callback. TJ Jagodowski, was like a brilliant improviser in Chicago, was in that callback. Like almost all of us in that slot got hired into the touring company. So I was
How many
Very
years?
lucky to be with those guys.
Yeah, that's an awesome group.
Oh, you froze up on me. I'm not hearing.
How many years did you audition before you got in, or how many times?
4 years. 4 years. Four times. Once a year.
Glad you stuck with it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not unusual. It's not unusual for that to happen for people, because when they have auditions, 300 to 500 people will show up, and people fly in from all around the country, and they only really need to fill 1, 2, 3 slots. So the odds are astronomical that you're going to get picked up. So it takes that long to get on their radar, and you also have to stay active in the Chicago community and build your reputation for them to be like, all right, we're ready now. Or, all right, we have enough slots open, we can bring these people in.
Yeah. And then when did you make the leap into writing or teaching writing?
Well, yeah, I've always been writing, and even stand-up is has a lot to do with writing. And but when my class finished going through Second City, we stuck together and formed a theater company. And when we did that, we kind of transitioned out of improv and sketch and started doing plays. And we would write plays collaboratively. And Metaluna is a play that I wrote for that company. And that was actually a really cool play, because it was we did it on Sunday and Monday nights, because renting a space was cheaper on a Sunday and a Monday night. And it was also a space that a guy who was directing a show at Second City owned and operated. So he saw our show and loved it. And Monday night is the off night for main stage cast at Chicago's Second City. So all these people from the cast started to show up and watch the show. Tina Fey, the music director, Kevin Dorff, all these producers from Second City started to show up. And so that was the year that they called me and asked me to come in, because they saw that I wrote this play that was like a big sketch review.
Oh, awesome. And then what led you into teaching writing?
Well, they didn't have a writing program when I started teaching. The guy in charge of the training center called me as soon as I got hired in the touring company. His name's Martin DeMott, a beautiful man, passed away a few years ago. But he's like, Joe, I think you'd be really good at teaching. Do you want to give it a shot? And I'm like, all right, Marty, I'll do anything you tell me to do. Yeah. And so he booked me for a class, and I'm like, Marty, I'm not sure I'm going to know what to do. And he's like, trust me, you'll know exactly what to do. And I got in there and started teaching the class, and I could hear his voice whispering in my head. I could hear Del Close whispering in my head. Every improv teacher I ever had was whispering in my ear to tell me what to do. And I just fell in love with teaching from that moment. And then they started a writing program a few years later, and I was like, please put me in there. I want to deal with that too.
Oh, very cool. Let's do this. We have about 5 minutes left, and I have to hear the Emmy story. So I got to just put the brakes on. You have to tell me. Well, you're an Emmy award-winning writer. Can we talk about that?
I'm an Emmy award-winning writer. I have a friend, Ray, who always introduces me that way. Here's the thing. It's an Emmy for writing, and it's for a show no one has ever heard of. And while I was in Cincinnati, a guy named Michael Flannery, good friend of mine, also a stand-up, got hired to do an afternoon kids show on Channel 19. And he's like, oh, man, I don't know what to do. I need material. Can you write me a bunch of character monologues? So I wrote him a bunch of character monologues. Melvin Furbish, street guard crossing guy, and Curtis, the bully, and the Professor Ziegler, the science professor, and just wrote him a ton of material. And he was like, this is great. I can't pay you. But what I can do is I can submit your name to the Emmy Review Board. I'm like, I don't care, Michael, whatever. And then he called me like a few months later, and he's like, hey, guess what? I'm like, what? What's up? You got an Emmy. I'm like, really? Okay, great. And I was like still kind of in that transition of being on the road and settling into Chicago. I wasn't able to make it to the ceremony. And so a friend of mine, Chip Chinnery, who is in LA now, was passing through. And so he brought the Emmy to me. And it was as unceremonious as you can get. It was in the trunk of his car. And it was in this styrofoam box. And so I just opened up the trunk, And the winner is Joe Janes. And he hands me this chunk of styrofoam. I'm like, thanks, Chip. And it's a beautiful statue. It's a lovely statue. But if it falls off your bookshelf into a box of cat litter, it will break apart into 3 pieces.
Oh. They should make them better.
Yeah, they should make them cat litter box proof. Yeah, absolutely.
Or you should put more litter in the box or something.
That, or I clean it more often. Something was amiss that day. So it's on my shelf, but it's in 3 distinct pieces.
Oh, okay, thank you very much for the Emmy story. I'm glad we got to that. Can you tell me really quickly what your average day looks like? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, I'm not sure I have an average day, because like sometimes people will go like, "How was your weekend?" And I'm like, I'm not sure what a weekend is, and it's not because I'm so busy. It's just like my schedule is so erratic. You know, sometimes I'll have a full day off on a Monday or a Tuesday, and then be super busy on a Saturday or a Sunday. But a typical average day is I get up in the morning, I get up early, I feed the cats, I wash dishes, I read the news, and then I'll start writing. Like I get that stuff out of the way, and then I'm working on a web series right now, so I'm cranking out scripts for that. I'm working on a musical with Pete Ficht in Portland, and so I'm working on that. And then usually done writing by 11 or noon, and then I'll eat lunch. And then if I have a workshop, I go to the workshop. If I don't, I might dig back more into writing, or I might just work in the garden, go run errands, or watch Game of Thrones. I'm almost done with season 2.
Oh the cliffhanger after
I'll
season
do my
1 was
watching in the afternoon.
That was
and then I usually teach it.
And okay, I was saying the cliffhanger at the end of season 1 on Game of Thrones was one of the best cliffhangers ever. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yep.
So it sounds like you have the perfect knot structure in your day to, you know, you can put in the structure where you need it to get your creative work done. Yeah. With enough collaborators around you.
Yeah, it's easy to plug it in. I'm also like one of the easiest guys to work with because I have such a flexible schedule. So it's easy for someone to pull me in for a rehearsal or a last-minute class or some corporate video shoot or anything like that. I kind of like the freedom. I don't know. My brain would implode if I had a Monday through Friday 9-to-5 job. Absolutely.
Yeah, mine too. Well, and I appreciate that your schedule is flexible enough to have this conversation with me.
Yeah, me too.
And I can't believe how fast the time flew. We're done. We're done.
Aww.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to make time to talk some more without the camera.
All right.
So my thanks to you, Joe Janes. Thank you for being here. Really quickly, where do people go to get information about your class at Gorilla Tango?
Oh, just go to gorillatango.com. They have, you can click on classes and it'll be the first thing that pops up.
Fabulous. If I was there, I would totally do that. That sounds awesome. So we're going to wrap up the show now. Remember that you can go to the ThinkTechHawaii.com website to find all of our archived shows and learn about what's coming up and sign up for the newsletter so you'll get that delivered right to your inbox. I would like to thank our stage manager, Zuri Bender, our media specialist, Chrissy Goffigan, and our technician, Ian Davidson, who is in my ear, and to Jay Fidel, who somehow manages to put it all together. Thank you. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week on Center Stage. Bye.